Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be showing you how to create your objects in Blender, rig them to animate them, texture them in a neat way, and bring it over to Unity and show you how to use it there. So this is the startup file with Blender, and that's exactly where we're going to start. Let's see if I can turn on keys for you guys. I don't know where it's at actually, I'm not gonna lie. Not quite sure where it's at. But you can use tab to switch from object mode to editor mode. I don't have that animation hotbar down there. And you just press T to make this go away. I like using Shift A to add objects. I like using tab to go back and forth between the object and edit mode, etc. So I'm assuming you understand Blender somewhat going into this video. So we're going to make a really simple character. So we're going to go ahead and extrude them up to here. Size, if you do Shift Z, for example, it'll only edit the X and Y axis and won't affect Z at all. And you can do that with the other ones. You can also do S for size, Shift X, right? Or Shift Y, or you can press Y in the middle, X, Z, whatever. You can reset it. And if you size and press Z and then press it again, it goes away. Right click to cancel an action. We're just gonna make a stick figure, really. So we can inset here by pressing I. Extrude it up a little bit, and then extrude again. Actually, I don't want to do that. I mean, I guess we can. Doesn't look awful. Could look better. Control R to create a loop cut. It's going to be a very basic character. And go ahead and size this down. As you can see, I don't really care if they're even or not. I just loop cut down the middle. We can go ahead and size these out on Y to make it wider. Extrude this down like 2, I suppose. Extrude down by 2. And then I want to separate these just a tiny bit. You can use Alt right click to select like an edge or usually a loop. If I were to do it right here, it should select all the way around, as you can see. Right. Let's move this up. Not really too worried about it. And then if you want to smooth out your character, so I kind of want him to, I'll size this down a little bit. I kind of want him smoothed out and rounded. So you have this modifier tab, which is a wrench, add modifier, subdivision surface, and that smooths them out a lot more than I like. We're not rendering, so I set that to 0. You render by pressing F12 though. I have my camera light taken off, so it's not going to render anything. You can do 2, 3 times smoothing and keep going, but you want to keep your face count, from my understanding with a character, like under 20,000 at this point. We're nowhere near that, so we could probably do 2 or 3 and be fine. And then apply. To be in object mode, apply. So there we go. We have a basic character. To rig it, we're in object mode currently. I'll rename this to character. We're going to do a basic rig. Shift A to add in something in object mode. Check down here. Armature, and that should be it. If your cursor is not centered, I think it's Control Shift Alt C or something like that to center it, or you can press N and bring up this menu, and where it says 3D cursor, just zero these 6 boxes out. Now we're gonna have to go into wireframe for now. I believe you can make them show. I can't remember how. I don't do this very often. In front, right there. You go into this little armature tab with the bone selected, go down to viewport display in front. And you can also show names, so we can name this bone. We can name it like, this little bone here will be this bone specifically. We can name it backbone. Right. Then when we go over into edit mode, we can press G to move and Z, and we grab the top. If you grab this side, you're gonna have problems. You want this side. Well, actually, no, you're not. It'll just pull it in the opposite direction. But think of this as like the beginning, and that's going out or away. You can press E to extrude, and that did a pretty good job on its own. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be inside the mesh. You'll see what happens, right? So we can move that one up. You can see that one's outside the mesh. You can press GX and move it back. And then we'll extrude this one down and right. Probably went behind him. Extrude it down. Making sure to select where you want to start from, which was the bottom of this bone, right? We have the beginning point for 3 bones there. And then press Z to change back into solid. Then I think you click the armature, and then hold shift and right click the mesh, and I think it's Alt P. No. Control P? No. Maybe it's the other way around. Mesh and then armature. Yeah. Okay, mesh and then armature. Press Control P. I'm assuming on Mac it'd be Command P. I could be wrong. And then armature with automatic weights. Right here. If there is a problem, you can always go click on the mesh, I believe, and then weight paint. And then you can see where that bone affects that. Right, I lost the stuff. Anyway, you can select the different bones. I think you have to do it from up here, probably. Nope, it took us into pose mode. I'm not completely sure. There's ways to edit that. I mean, you'll have to look up a more in-depth tutorial. It's about taking it from Blender to Unity. You can name all the bones. I'm not gonna bother right now, but we can go over into pose mode and we can see rotate X. Whoop, rotate X. See, he works pretty well. Rotate Z. See, it's getting his face a little bit. You wouldn't normally want that. I'm not worried about it right now. Rotate Y. That's pretty good. So I don't mess with this a lot, but I think the animation tab, right, this is where we can start keyframing. This little button here sets a keyframe when you move things, so we can rotate it. Actually, right now, what I like to do, there's a copy button, I believe. I just hit Control C and Control V, and that pasted the keyframe, right? So when you go over to, that is frame rate over here, and that like little one that looks like a printer. If you set it to 60 frames per second, it thinks you want to play at 60 frames per second. It doesn't really matter too much how far you spread it out, but I would recommend doing at least 24. But I'm not a professional, so anyway, all of them are keyframe now. We can go to like, think of how far he would go in a half of a second. So actually we'll want to make one change first. We're going to rotate this on X. And that looks horrible. But again, we didn't spend much time on this. And his arms are down. Then we can go over to like frame 30, for example. So this would be a half a second in. We can rotate Y forward, rotate Y backward, rotate Y forward on the arm closer to us, rotate Y backward on the arm that's opposite of us. Right. Then we'll go over to 60, and keep in mind these speeds are not the biggest deal in the world, and you'll see why when we get to Unity. Just doing a basic animation right now. I really need to copy and paste, get everything keyframed. Copy, paste. You want all the bones keyframed at once, so you can see he's getting animated, and then we can just go pretty much back and copy this, bring it all the way to like 90. Actually, I think it's probably better to copy this one and bring it to 90. And then at 120, we'll copy the original. Whoops. Make sure all bones are selected. Control C. 120. We'll paste it. That way, if we want to play between 30 and like 89, should look like you're running or walking or whatever else. You see it's kind of struggling to keep at that frame rate, but it's not a big deal. It looks good. That's what we wanted. So we'll set this from 1 to 120. I think the other thing we should do, we might need to set it to 140 or like 160. So from 120 to 160, we're gonna take this current frame, copy it, paste. In the middle, we're gonna move some things around. So yeah, we don't want to do that. Rotate Y. Let's rotate them forward a little bit. You just want to be able to see some movement. Alright, so that's kind of silly, but you know. Alright, so that's everything with that. We can go back to our default window by clicking up here. All of his animations work and everything. So you want to select his armature and him. If you want to rename the bones, right now is not a bad time. I mean, you can just click on the bones from the pose mode, I suppose, and you know, left arm, right arm, head. Got his backbone, left leg, right leg. Now, I'm going to get rid of these bones. I don't want them to show at the moment. We're going to go into edit mode, which will take him back to that pose. Oh, we're editing the armature. That's not what I wanted. Make sure the mesh is selected. Go back to edit mode. Wow, how did my cursor get down there? Anyway, let's say we want to give him a shirt, so we could select this edge loop by pressing Alt and clicking on the edges and go all the way around. And then when you're happy with the circle you made or whatever, you click Control R. Never mind, not Control R, Control E, and then mark seam. When you mark the seam, a line should turn red around them. And this is not going to look amazing either, but it's to demonstrate how to do it. When you're selecting around in a loop too, you have to do Shift Alt and right click, and that should keep them all selected. Control E, mark seam. We can get one of his neck loops too, I'm sure. Control E, mark seam. We can get one of these random ones. We'll go like right here, Control E, mark seam. Select here. We can do the other side since they're not connected. And that's not what we want. We want this one. Unless they're different. They're both the fifth one down, so we'll go with that one. Control E, mark seam. Now you select all by pressing A. We're still in edit mode, so it's only the mesh that we're selecting. Click U, unwrap. Don't do smart unwrap, do unwrap. And you'll see what happens. Now if you go up in this upper right corner and drag to the left, you will get a second window, and we're going to do that again, but drag down. And here we're going to go to, I don't want that one up here. Shader editor up here. Press N to get rid of this window. Make sure your cursor is in this window. That'll go away. And then you want to go UV editor here. There's two things you want to check for normally. This character, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be simple. If you have a more complicated character, you're going to want to check. But when you press, you can go over here, you have to scroll on this bottom window, press display, stretch, and it'll show stretching. This is treated as a separate window when you press A and stuff. Blue means it's not being stretched. If you get a different color, that means it is, like that little bit right there. Just turning like a greenish color, that's being stretched. I'm personally not worried about it. And the other thing is, if you don't know what these little bits of mesh, right, where we created that line, all this mesh over here past that red line shows up over here as its own thing. We don't know which one it is. So if you need to find out, you can go over here. There's two arrows facing the opposite ways right at the beginning. Click it. Double select, like double press A to select or deselect. Press B and you can drag this over. So we can see that this mesh up here is for our left or our right foot. That's important to know. If you press B again, we can find out what this one is. That's the head. I'm going to assume this is the left foot. Yep. What about this one? That's your chest. What about this one? So chest, legs, right arm, left arm, right? So if that's important to you, you can always do that. Select the whole mesh again. So get rid of that, what do they call it? Keep UV in edit mode mesh selection in sync. So if you want to turn the sync off, you can go back to this. You have the option to press L. Now, the rotation R key, G for moving, and S for size still works over here. But you also have L. So you can press L and it selects that entire piece of mesh that you cut off by marking the seam, and unwrapping, and you press G to move it around. So you can do that. I would double tap A to deselect and select another one. You can do S for size, R for rotate, it doesn't matter. So we can move these around a little bit, and I'll show you an example of why you want to later. But since my character is simple, it doesn't matter. If yours was more complicated, you have the option to create new down here. If you want it really detailed, I would say go with 4096 pixels both ways. If not, you can do 2048 or 1024. It doesn't matter. Make sure alpha is selected because that's transparency basically. You name it. I'm not going to bother. But once you do that and you have it selected under this window, go to UV, export UV layout, and pick a place. It can then be opened with any, I recommend any software that supports layers. So GIMP is free, and I'll put that in the description. You can use Photoshop. It does not matter. But GIMP is a nice one. I used it for a while. But today we're using Photoshop. So I'm going to open Photoshop now. And I'm just going to create a palette with like 4 different colors. And we're going to import that once Photoshop opens. I'm pretty new to Photoshop. I just downloaded it. So 4096 by 4096. I actually don't really need that. We'll do like 248. Right, so what I'm gonna do is probably just box select this top half. Get the paint bucket. We'll make it like blue. I probably shouldn't have done that much. We'll get this part now. We'll make it like, what shirt color should we give them? Red? We'll make it real bright. Go back to your paint bucket, red. Right. Photoshop is Control D. I don't remember what GIMP was. We can go back to our box select tool, select another corner. We can do a skin color here. So we can do, I want to be creative. Should we make him like a green guy? He'd look ridiculous. I don't know. Let's just do that. It's simple. And then his shoes can be like, I don't know, brown. Control D. I always forget. There's hotkeys for these too, so we'll select this bit. I forget which color I just said. I like brown. We'll make them gray. It's an easy color to get. You just grab the edge. Gray. Why that one stayed over that, I have. Oh, I know. Paint bucket tool. You have to select that color. Anyway, this is all we need. So we can go File. You can save it first and edit it later if you want, and it'll stay as a Photoshop document. But I'm just gonna export this one. Export as. And you want it to be a PNG. So you want it to be PNG because I don't think JPEG or GIF or what is SVG? I forget. Something vector graphics. It's pretty cool actually, but PNG export. You pick the location you want. So I picked the location. We can go back over to Blender. And the first thing you want to do is go to Material with the mesh selected that you want. It can be edit mode, it doesn't really matter. Use nodes. that will create this. That's your basic material. You can name it if you want. You can name it skin, like the character skin. You use the middle mouse button to move around here. Shift A, texture, image texture. This allows you to take a texture from outside of Blender, bring it in, click open and find your texture. Now that we got that selected, it should show up down here as well. So you want that. We're going to go back over to edit mode. So you can see where these meshes are, and that gray matches, and I didn't realize that. Kind of forgot about it. But there is gray there, like the image we made. You drag this color. You click where it's yellow and the color is. Drag it to base color. You're not going to see any changes, but it happened. And I'll prove it to you. We'll go back to object mode, click Z, and go to look dev, and yuck, we messed up. So we're gonna go back to edit mode, and you can see it still shows. It's just hard to see through all those edges. We're gonna select L. We're gonna size stuff down and move it around. So that's our shirt. We'll make it red. We got that. We want that to be a skin color. L to select that one. Want that to be a skin color. What is this? His pants. Perfect. Want it to be blue. This one that's gray. That's his shoe. That's what we want. L. I think that's his other shoe. Yup. And then one of these two are his head. I'm gonna guess it's that one. Whoops. That's why you double tap A. Bring it over. That is his head. Doesn't matter where you put it. If you had more detailed graphics, it would. They can overlap. It doesn't matter. But as you can see, there he is. Colors we want it to be. I could have drawn a face if I wanted to. I didn't really think about it at the time. He looks terrible, but it's alright. This is why you would edit how much you do the weight paint. I can't remember how to do it the way it's meant to be, but usually when I put bones on a character, it's fine. So this one happened to not be. So at this point, you want to save if you haven't saved by now. Oh, I should also mention over in Photoshop, if you do a more detailed character, they do have the option 3D. 3D. Where is it? I just did this earlier. Oh, filter 3D. It might have to be a different layer. Let's duplicate the layer. Right. Let's try it now. Well, I don't know, maybe it didn't sense enough detail. But you can do 3D and it'll say bump map and normal map, which a bump map is a height map. It's two different ways of creating fake depth, and it's basically like free detail. Whenever you're running a game or a render, because it just tells it how to calculate light in a certain spot. It can fake depth, which is actually really neat. This one we're not going to be doing it with, obviously, but if you did and you want to see it here, you would create an image texture and then go to vector normal map, and you put that yellow bit of color into that, change it to non-color data. You probably can't see that. You go to non-color data and then plug it in here. This is a principal shader and Unity 2.8. Yep, it'd work out great. So save your character right now and I'll show you how to export him. Right, so when you're ready to export, you want to select his armature, not in pose mode. Oh man, is it really going to be like this? Right click, so you have both his armature and his mesh or his body that you created selected, we can get rid of these windows. They kind of drive me nuts after I don't need them. So, oh, also, it's worth mentioning, if you have two windows, I think it's control space. Yeah, control space, it makes it full screen. That specific window that you're looking at, which is pretty cool if you ever want to use that. We have those two meshes selected, right? The mesh and the armature, the two objects. You go to File, Export.fbx. And then from here, you want to select selected objects, grab the armature and the mesh by pressing shift and pressing those two. I mean, you want to press a single one first and then shift. Don't worry about any of this stuff. We can change it in Unity. The animation should come with it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Just treat it as a different tab. And then you save it, whatever you want to name it, where you want to put it. Right, so here's our old project I'm sure we haven't dealt with in a while. First thing I'm going to do is create a new folder. This is what I do now. I didn't back then, but I like to put imported folder. And then you have to open your files up and drag it over. So I have selected my character.fbx file that I made and his skin color looking thing that I made, the image. Put it in imported so we can process it. And what I like to do, I made an imported folder here. Wow. Okay, we can put that in there then. Materials, create, right click it, create material. And we'll name this one character tut. Right, and then create an empty in here. Character tut. I'm not actually going to animate this one or anything. We can drag him over into here, drag him onto that. Then you need to go over and find the mesh, which is right here, and bring character tut over to it. It's going to be completely white right now. Man, he is way too big. So let's size him down. Let's size him down from the highest part that we imported, right? That prefab that we imported, technically. Size him down there, so we'll do 0.2. Is that better? Probably. I've got the highest part selected now. So we'll put him, oh no, let's do like 0.4 so we can get a good look at him in a minute. I did that underneath the parent object. So we're gonna put him here. Right, there he is. Under character tut, you want to go to the albedo, which is the base color. Find the texture that you created and drop it on there. So there he is. If we go and play, we're going to get a bunch of warnings in the bottom, I'm sure, because I upgraded this to 2019.2.3. Oh, I got that old rain system one here. Yep, so that's what he looks like. No animations playing. So you have to go over here to the original prefab. Go to animation, which it was already selected. And then I don't think I really, let's see, did we add? You can select down here and you can see exactly what pose he's making. So if you play it, you can see walk animation. Oh yeah, idle. So I think that was from what, 90 to, maybe it wasn't, 120 to 160. Yep, that was his idle. 120 to 160. So here we want to go 120 to 159. I guess that works. We're out of room. This is driving me nuts. So we have that one selected. Idle. And then this one we're going to say walk. We're going to let him play automatically. So 30 to 89. Wasn't that it? And I know you're saying you didn't show the part where he walked in, or like where he went into the walk or exited the walk, and you'll see why. But we got those two things set now. So that should have applied to him, especially if you actually go down here and press apply like I didn't do. So now we got our idle and walk. I think you have to add a controller, right? So let's go over here under assets, create a folder called animation controllers, and then create, right click create. It's in here somewhere, we'll find it. Animator controller, and we'll name this one character tut after him. Then go in here. Another important thing is to make sure generic or humanoid is selected, one of the two. Okay, so I remember now. You have to come over here, you got idle and walk under the imported character. When you open him up as a child object, you want to drag those two into here. Idle, whenever it's like an orangish color like that, that means that is the default thing that's going to play. Entry means that the animations just started playing, like on awake basically. Any state means from any state that you might have, whether it be walking, idling, running, whatever else you add, you can call that particular animation from there. So we're not going to be using that one. We're only going to use entry, and then right click from idle, make transition to walk, then right click, make transition to idle. We don't need an exit either. So the only time we want to do that, as you can see here too, there's solo and mute. If you do, you don't want either one of those selected from what I read. So here we're going to write the script that makes the animation play. So you need to include, or type technically in here, using Unity Engine.animations. And then we'll type in if, I messed that up, input.getKey W. We'll just use W because I mean that's what we use to move forward anyway. Get component animator dot n. Well, actually, you know what? There is a better way to do this. You need more efficient anyway. We'll say char animator. No. Animator. Char animator. Char animator equals get component animator That might be all we need, actually. I can't remember. Let me go back into Unity. So we have, oh no, we're putting it on this object. So I'll show you how to get a component under an object, which is great. So we need to type in game object dot transform dot find And we misspelled it. Right, transform.find, and then you have to go back, get the name of that object. So we're gonna change that. Hopefully that doesn't mess with anything. I named it mesh, but it has the armature on it too, so so you do GameObject.transform.find, and then you can type in a child, since GameObject would be the object this is on.transform. I don't know why you have to put that, but you do .find would be by name child objects character mesh, right? .get component will go in here, and it'll say, it'll look through this list, and your components, you want the animator, which is what we asked for right here. If you were to put a dot, I mean, not in this case, this is just so we can you know, reference it. But if you put a dot, you could say, well, actually I'm going to show you anyway. Char animator dot, we might be able to do dot play here. Now you have to remember what you name them. Walk. Was it with a capital W? It is cap sensitive. Yes, it was. And then we can say else char animator dot play idle. And then we have to make sure that it is on this object, which it is. Will it work? I'm not actually 100% sure. So let's drag this over here. Keep it small so we can see him on this screen. So if I press W, hopefully, see, he's just idling right now, but if I press W, he starts walking. It's not the smoothest walk. It's supposed to transition into it. It might not have. But, you know, he's textured and he's in here walking. There are smoother ways to do it. I'm just not amazing with the animator. But that wasn't the point. Our point was to bring the object over, have it textured and animated. And it is animated, textured, and brought over. So that would be it for this tutorial. This also applies to the character that you're using if you did want to use him as your character. I just don't want to take the time to set all that up right now. I can if you guys want me to. Let me know in the comments. Just to let you guys know, in the future, I do plan on trying to build games in 2 days, just the core of it. Could be a phone game, a computer game, or I suppose another platform. If we really wanted to, I could look into it and get the core of the game going so you can get the idea of it. It might just be like one level or whatever, and then have time after that to add to it. And I have a Google Play developer account, so I can post on Google Play if I want. So that might be something to look forward to if that interests you. Other than that, just let me know if you want me to make any more tutorials. I have been learning a lot lately. Unity Learn is very useful. If you go into Unity Learn, they have a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not logged in at the moment, but if I was, I mean, you got courses here. They've got all sorts of stuff. This is the free version here too. I have premium. I decided to start paying for Unity, and I really do enjoy it. I mean, you can customize a splash screen and everything. I don't know why it's not loading right now. I do have a lot of stuff going on in the background, but yeah, they have all these tutorials and they go real in depth. Like beginner scripting, 7 hours. If there's anything you really need to know, this is an awesome place to go. It's not loading at the moment, but start course. It saves your progress. If you're logged in, you can go back, finish it later, mark it as complete, and this will really help you get somewhere. So some of them are written too, if you don't mind reading. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.